Hello my friends, welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about the basics of UX design, also known as user experience design. If you don't know what that means, it's right there in the title. Designing experiences for users of a product. Products can be literally anything. It can be apps on your phone like Instagram. They can be websites that you look at on your computer like Facebook. They can be the actual physical object themselves like your iPhone. And they can be services even. So something like Apple Care, like phone protection, that's a service that you're paying for. That's a product. And products aren't limited to just one of these buckets. So Facebook has an iOS app, Facebook has an Android app, and Facebook also has a website that you look at on your laptop or your desktop computer. And all three of those look and are used in different ways. Even if you say Facebook is on just a phone, a mobile phone, well, there's actually a pretty big difference between an Android version of Facebook and the iOS version of Facebook. Mostly in the way that you use the app to interact with Facebook. But there are differences because Android phones have different specifications and screen sizes and expectations of how an app will work than people who are used to iOS interfaces. An example of a service would be something like insurance. In some parts of the United States at least, there's a concept of flood insurance. This is because there are some areas where there's a greater chance that there might be a significant amount of rainfall, and either based on that area or type of ground you have, I guess, you're more likely to have flooding ruining like your home or property or whatever. And so if you were building like an insurance service, you have to recognize that in some areas, some people wouldn't think twice about buying flood insurance. It's something everybody has. It's something that's required maybe even by like a local government to have. Whereas, for example, where I live, flood insurance is kind of a waste of money. I actually don't even know if you can buy it where I live because it's not a thing that happens. You'd have to tailor your insurance experience for your product. Your product's insurance, you want to sell insurance, but you're not going to waste time trying to customize a flood insurance package to people in my area who will literally never buy it. You're better off knowing about the needs of the people who actually will buy flood insurance and focusing your flood insurance sales tactics efforts like on those people instead. Another example of why you might need to have a different experience for a product is just something about physical limitations, whether that's like your user's actual physical capabilities and what they can accomplish, or whether whatever you're dealing with has different limitations. For example, desktop computer, you most likely have a keyboard and a mouse attached. So you can do stuff that you can do with the mouse, like left click, right click, sometimes you have a middle click or extra buttons on the side. Whereas on a phone, I guess you could have like a Bluetooth mouse, but most people don't have that. When you're planning out, say, a mobile app, you're not going to account for what does a right click on a mouse button do? It just doesn't make sense. Or if you have a right click interaction on the desktop like web app, so on Facebook if you go to right click on something, maybe that pulls up another menu. Well, on the mobile app they have to account for that in a different way because people won't be able to right click. They don't have a mouse. And it goes the opposite way too. For example, when you're using a mobile app, you can use your finger to scroll up and down, right? That's a very well-known interaction. But a desktop computer, most people don't have a touchscreen desktop computer, and so that up and down using finger to scroll, you have to account for that in a different way. And they do that by adding scroll bars to the right side, by adding in functionality to use like a middle scroll wheel to scroll up and down, using the up and down arrow keys or page up or page down arrow keys. Point is that they couldn't just take that touch or swipe up and down to scroll interaction and just copy and paste it to the web experience. They had to sort of translate it in a different way because there are different limitations on a desktop computer than there are for a mobile app. Another example is Facebook. Facebook has an Android app, they have an iOS app, and they have a website app or a web app version. They have to design 3 different experiences for all those different users. It's more or less the same core functionality of using Facebook, but they have to account for the fact that mobile users will be able to use their finger to swipe up and down to scroll, and desktop users won't. Desktop users can right click on a mouse wheel or a mouse button, but mobile users can't. Trying to make one experience fit within all possible experiences and just reusing it is near or literally impossible. It will not be the best experience for those users. It'll be hard to use. Users will be frustrated. They won't use your product, post bad reviews of your product. They'll tell people not to use it. That's really nothing that any company wants for their product, I'm fairly certain. This is also why Facebook looks different depending on the experience that you're using, whether it's the Android app, the iOS app, or the web app. And why it looks different, I'll get into later because it relates to user interfaces or UI. And this video is about UX, user experience. Even though the two are related and there is some overlap, they are 2 sides of the same coin. They're not the same thing. User experience is literally about how it is to use it. It's not about how it looks. It's not about the color scheme. It's not about the different types of fonts that you use. Now that I say that, of course, there's some aspect of that that does play a role in user experience design, but it's really just what are the common tasks that a user can do? What are the common tasks that a user might want to do? Can they accomplish those tasks? Can they accomplish them easily? Is it easy for them to figure out how to accomplish those tasks? It's all about doing a lot of planning ahead of actually building out like what it's going to look like and what it looks like in, say, the back end code. For example, making a post on Facebook. Did you know that Facebook requires you to be logged in to make a post? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you only did subconsciously. Because Facebook designed the user experience of making a post to where you can't even try to write a post unless you're logged in. This prevents users from going to write a post and then being frustrated at being asked to log in after the fact. Because to a user, they're thinking, you let me write the post, but you won't let me actually post it because I wasn't logged in. Why'd you even let me get halfway through the process? Facebook also has good experience design here when you think about the different places you can make a post. You're right on the home page. You can make a post immediately. So it's the first big message box you see. Some people try to write posts from their profiles to make it seem like it's their update feed, or a homepage is an easily accessible area to make a post yourself. There's also that same message box for making a post available in events, groups, pages, all sorts of things. And it's all very familiar because it's the same experience across the entire site. Another Facebook example, since I'm on a roll with that one, is changing your profile picture. Facebook utilizes a person's natural inclination to touch things to interact with them. So if you're on your profile already and you click on your profile picture, it'll open an update window and prompt you to change your profile picture. Facebook assumes, or they've done research, or probably both, that if you're trying to click on your profile picture, the most popular reason why would be the intent to change the picture. There are other options you can select when you click on your profile picture, but those are secondary to the main action that they've determined, which is changing the picture. Also, if you're on any other page on Facebook, clicking on your profile picture anywhere will take you back to your profile where you can change your picture. Facebook did this very intentionally because they have 2 sets of users in mind. One the people who already know how to change their profile pictures, which Facebook's absolutely not concerned with. Two, the type of people who don't know how to change their profile picture already, but by leveraging their understanding of human psychology and what your natural inclination is to click or touch something to interact with it, users who don't know how to change their profile picture can very easily discover how to change their profile picture. That means the experience is very intuitive, and overall it ensures success of all types of users. People who are experts at using Facebook and already know how, or they're people who are brand new to the site. So you might be wondering, how does a UX designer know how or what way to design something? And they don't, at least not right from the start. Sure, there are common patterns that users of certain target audiences are used to, and they can be repeated over and over again. But if you're actually getting down into the specifics of a design, what's behind that is an understanding of human psychology, specifically cognitive psychology, and a lot of research. So some of the research will be user research, and that's doing interviews, doing surveys, actually giving a prototype or a mock-up of your product to the target audience and studying how they interact with it and what works well and what doesn't. Some of this research is looking at industry trends, so what other people are kind of talking about or doing. Some of it's competitive comparisons. So looking at your product's competition and seeing what they're doing. Based on all of that research, the user experience designer will actually build out these little fake profiles or personas of their target audience users. Facebook, for example, just going along with Facebook, will actually create a user persona for a teenager using Facebook, and they'll create a different one for a user persona of a mom using Facebook or a small business owner using Facebook. Because a teenager, a mom, and a small business owner are all going to use Facebook in different ways. They'll use different aspects of Facebook, and they'll have different needs for what they're going to want to accomplish on Facebook. A small business owner is probably more concerned with Facebook Business Manager, Page Manager, maybe Facebook Shops, and a teenager is obviously not concerned with any of that. They actually write these little profiles and give them backgrounds and names and like stock image photography to use an actual picture of someone. These personas will actually leverage these to get in the mindset of different users of their target audience. So what they'll do with these personas is actually put them through stuff like storyboarding, or they'll do almost like comic strip type panels where they create fake scenarios. Let's say Max, a teenager, wants to sell something on a Facebook group. Here's the actual stuff that he'll do and what he might be thinking during the process. They might also do stuff like experience mapping, user journey mapping, or user flows, which just kind of literally maps out the different paths that Max could or might take in order to accomplish his goal of selling something in a Facebook group. They might say, well, what if Max starts off at this page, the home page, or what if Max tries to start from being directly within the group that he wants to sell in? It's all about kind of accounting for different scenarios and different kind of barriers that the user might experience, and making sure you address those barriers in some way, whether by accounting for them or minimizing them or providing more support to the user at that specific point so that they can overcome the barrier. User experience designers will also do stuff like create sitemaps. They'll do information architecture, so like how information is actually structured on pages, between pages, on the site as a whole, how it kind of relates to each other and how it's utilized in different ways. Wireframing, which is kind of like grayscale, usually blocking of different high-level components on a page or with a product. Interaction design, which is, let's say a user right-clicks with their mouse button. Is anything going to happen? Is there a custom menu there? And I'll get into that stuff in greater detail in later videos, but those are just some examples of the deliverables or the actual work that a UX designer produces. And all that's to say, what does any of these deliverables actually do? It helps you refine and better understand the users of your product so that you can ensure that your product not only meets their needs, but helps them to be successful in accomplishing their goals. It also helps you communicate your intention of your designs to developers and other stakeholders in the project. Sometimes when you're in a very design-focused mindset, it's harder to explain that to less design-oriented people that are involved, and things might get lost in the translation. It also helps you mitigate wasted time and money by producing low-fidelity versions of the product before any actual, hardcore manufacturing or developing has been put into place. So the product can easily be critiqued and tweaked before any kind of real investment is made. It also helps you prioritize components within the product to make sure that things are flexible, accessible to your user base, and functional most of all, so that users are more likely to have a good experience and continue using the product. And it also helps you explore variations and think outside of the box with your product to help you improve upon a tried and true old design, help your product stand out, or innovate into a completely different market space. They say that the work of the UX designer is often invisible in the final product, and I 100% agree. This is because a great experience is one that you don't have to think about. It's one you don't even realize that you're using because it's so intuitive, it's second nature to you. Think about a ballpoint pen. Do you have to pick it up and think about twisting it or clicking it to use it? Or do you just use it? I hope this video has helped you to garner a better understanding of what UX design is and what a UX designer does. Of course, I'll be delving into all these topics in greater detail in future videos, but I just wanted to get something out that was sort of like a foundation upon which I can build later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.